We're really looking forward to this session. Spencer, do you want to say anything very quickly just before we kick off?
Just super happy to be here. Thank you so much for that introduction. Yeah, very excited for everything that's happening here.
Brilliant. Hopefully you can all see my screen. Can I get a thumbs up if you can? Excellent. Thanks, Siobhan. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, Spencer. And so I've called this session, How to Use the Value Proposition Canvas to Innovate Your Way Out of a Global Crisis. And I do want to say thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join this call, particularly given the current situation that we're in. Hopefully this is actually going to be a super positive experience. It's going to help you think about ways that, yeah, you can come up with new ideas, turn them into businesses, and take this negative situation and turn it as much as possible into a positive one. So just very quickly, just to talk about myself, Bruce has done a fantastic introduction as well. I've been using the tools that we're going to be talking about today, the value proposition canvas tools and the business model canvas tools for years. I've helped businesses use them to generate millions of pounds in revenue. And regularly what I do is help them map out their value propositions and their business models. So I'm very excited to be able to get this opportunity to share with you the tools today. And by the way, feel free to follow me on Instagram. I'm at Nick Himo, or also connect with me on LinkedIn too, Nick Himovich or Nicholas Himovich on LinkedIn. So it's a great opportunity to do that. And I am so happy as well that I've managed to convince Spencer as well to join the call, because Spencer is absolutely wonderful human being. He's done some things that are absolutely marvelous. He is he was one of the few people in the country to take a startup from zero revenue to millions of pounds in revenue in less than a year. And that was with Makers Apprenticeships, as he was the managing director for that. And he's also now the CEO of Future Builders, which has investment from Founders Factory and also from Nesta. So he's got fantastic experience as well using these tools, but building businesses and turning ideas into reality. So I'm so happy that we managed to convince him to join this webinar to get some of his experience and actually talk about how he's applied them in real life in his own business, and also to show you that it's not easy, as Alex Osterwalder was saying, that you're going to make mistakes, you're going to fail, you've got to get up again, and you've got to start again and again and again. And actually Spencer's going through a pivot right now, and we were working only yesterday using these tools and applying it to his business. So we're going to get an opportunity to see how he's doing it as an accomplished entrepreneur. So I'm really pleased that we've got Spencer. Go on, Spencer, do you want to say something?
Just a very quick one. Nick, I didn't mention that I've got a press embargo on the Nesta funding until 12 o'clock today. So anybody listening, please don't tweet or put anything out there about this Nesta thing. It's supposed to be launched today at midday. So there's literally shouldn't have been speaking about that. But anyway, that will happen. It's only 40 minutes early. I'm sure that's absolutely fine.
I was expecting you to say, oh, thanks, Nick. That's a great introduction. Sorry about that.
But it was also a great introduction.
And by the way as well, Spencer does some fantastic things on Instagram with Spencer Ayres, so go follow him there too. And as Bruce was saying, we do have our own YouTube channel called The Spen and Nick Show, so feel free to subscribe to that. And we go through a lot of these tools in quite a lot of detail, how to apply them. And we talk about business, innovation, design, learning. So really recommend that you go and check that out, subscribe there for more of the same, really. Also, what I'd like to say at this point is we've introduced ourselves. I think this is a fantastic opportunity to network and get to know one another, right? So if you'd like to use the chat box to share maybe your name, where you're calling from more specifically, if you want to, and what idea are you working on, I think this could be really, really interesting. Like, I will state though, that you're doing this you're using the chat box at your own risk, right? So only if you feel comfortable, but it'd be really nice for you to share your name, share your ideas, because then maybe what we could do is pick some of them and relate back what we're saying to them, if possible. Also, if you want to network with each other and share your Instagram handles or your LinkedIn URLs, feel free to do that as well. It's a great opportunity, right? But let's talk about what I'm going to be talking about over the next 20-25 minutes or so. So there are three main parts. The first part is I'm going to talk about 5 mistakes that everybody makes when starting up and what to do about it. So we're all going to make these mistakes, so we might as well be aware of them and then learn from it. Then the next thing is I'm going to introduce you to the value proposition canvas, which is the main tool from this book, Value Proposition Design, which I highly recommend getting if you haven't already. I think it's the best business book I've ever read, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. So That's really helpful. Then what we're going to do is talk about how businesses are innovating in a crisis, give one main example, and then go on to talk about Spencer's example as well. So if that's all right, I'm going to crack straight into it. Spencer, you're going to jump in. If there's any comments that you think are great, let me know. Or if there's any questions that you see coming up, feel free to ask questions as well throughout.
There's some great things coming through on the chat. Just so many great ideas really coming in. So yeah, keep on going with that. We'll perhaps come back to those in a few minutes.
Brilliant. Thanks, Spencer. So I really quickly want to go through these 5 mistakes that we're definitely going to make. I was talking to Spencer about this last week, and he said he keeps making them even though he knows that they exist, right?
All the time. Every single one of them as well.
So the first one is that we let ideas float around inside our head for ages without actually doing anything about them. So that's the first mistake that I'm sure, let me know if you relate to this, by the way. Let me know in the chat box. The next one is you spend 0 time with customers and fail to identify what their needs really are. The next one is that you poorly articulate to customers how your product can help them. We've all done it before. We've got an idea for a business and then someone says, okay, well, what is it? And then you go, oh, well, it's this thing that does that. And it's about this and it's really going to help these people. But, it's kind of going to do this. It's a bit like that. But then no one really understands what you're saying, right? So we need to try and avoid that common mistake. The next one is not really realizing that what customers say and what customers do are not always the same thing. It's like if you go and ask your mum if she thinks your business idea is a good idea, of course she's going to say yeah. She's going to be like, yeah, it's a fantastic idea. You should definitely do that. But what people say and the reality is not always the same. So we need to be aware of that. And the next one is you waste time and money over engineering the first version of your product. So you're going to start, if you do eventually get your idea out of your head and start building it, what you're going to do is you're going to start making it much bigger than it needs to be. Your perfection is going to come in. You're going to put all these features into your product and it's going to be way more complicated than it's going to need to be. It's going to take you months longer than it needs to create it. And it's also going to just be way more complicated and way more expensive. And you'll give it to people and they'll be like, we didn't need that part. And so you will have wasted lots of time. So here are 5 tips in terms of what you can do about it. Number 1, get your ideas out of your head and onto paper immediately. Do a napkin sketch, yeah? Or use the canvas that we're going to show you today to be able to map out your ideas. It's simple and it shouldn't take more than 20 minutes. The next thing is speak to customers and get crystal clear on their most important needs. You want to be having a very clear idea of what customers need and what they're trying to do and how they're trying to do it right now. So the canvas is going to help us do this. Next, you want to clearly articulate to customers how your product can help them. This is all about getting your pitch right. I know many of you have done it already. 20% of you have worked on value propositions before, but many of you haven't. So if we can think about it a lot early on and get it clear in our heads first, and then map them out in a really nice way, that's going to help make sure that we can articulate them better when we do speak to customers. Then this one's a key one. Get your customers to show you interest, ideally using their credit cards. So what happens is you speak to customers, they say, yeah, we'd buy that. Yeah, we'd love to buy that. Do they buy it? No. What's really good is if you can get them to actually ask them for their credit card details and see if they're genuinely interested. You don't need to take them straight away, but you can at least ask them, right? And see if they're genuinely interested in your product, maybe even before you've made the first version of it. And we'll talk about that later on as well. And then finally, I think it's so important to make sure that you create a scrappy version of the first prototype that you create and just focus on one feature and get that to your customers very quickly, because they'll be able to tell you straight away what they think of it. And this really comes from this book as well that I really recommend checking out if you haven't already. It's called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. He talks about this idea of a minimum viable product. Yeah. And that's having the most basic form of a prototype that you can create very quickly to test your idea. So you want to be able to make sure that you do a simple, basic prototype, nothing too complicated, get it out to people quickly, and then you'll know what they like and what they don't like. And based on that feedback, you can then improve it and change it. So those are the top 5 mistakes and what to do about it. And thankfully, the value proposition canvas and the value proposition design book is going to give us the answers that we need to be able to actually overcome those challenges. And that's what we're going to be doing today. As I say, I think it's the best business book that's ever written, in my opinion. I've not paid by a strategizer to say that, or Alex Osterwalder. I just think it's a fantastic tool and one that I use every day, particularly the value proposition canvas and the business model canvas. And today's session, we're going to be focusing on the value proposition canvas, but I highly recommend you go to strategizer.com and check out all the other tools. And there's lots of great videos that you can check out there too. So now let's go into the introduction to the value proposition canvas. Now, we've said the word value proposition quite a lot already on this call, but what do we mean by it? I think that's a good place to start, right? So what we mean by value proposition is it's just a description of the benefits a company promises to deliver to customers should they choose to buy their product or service. Yeah, that's it, just a description. And what I've said here is your products need a strong value proposition if you want a lot of people to buy it, if you want to have lots of customers. So that's what we mean by a value proposition. And now what we've done is Strategizer have created this tool called the value proposition canvas to help you map out what that description is, to be able to help you get really clear on what are your customers' needs, what's your product, and how does it help benefit them. Yeah. So there's two sides to this value proposition canvas. We've got on the right hand side, we've got the circle, which is the customer profile, and then on the left hand side, we've got the square, which is the value map. Yeah, and let's go through what is entailed in each one of those. So on the customer profile, first we've got pains, which are the difficulties, obstacles, challenges that your customers are facing, the problems that they've got, that they want to move away from. Then you've got the gains, which is the expected benefits, the results, the outcomes, the rewards that they want to get to, they want to be moving towards. And then of course, you've got the thing that they're trying to do, the activity, to be able to get from one to the other. And we call this your customer jobs. So what are the activities that your customers are currently engaging in to be able to get from the pain that they've got to the outcome that they want to get to? So that's the customer profile. If we can understand who our customer is, what their pains are, what objectives they've got, what outcomes they want to get to in terms of gains, and what they're currently doing to move from one to the other, that's going to help us so much make sure that we're creating a product that is going to really meet our customers' needs. Okay? Are you with me? Is everyone still with me? Can you give me some yeses in the chat box as well if you're still with me? And if you've got any questions so far, feel free to put them in the Q&A box as well.
Getting loads of yeses in the chat box. Also, some incredible ideas. The breadth of these ideas that are coming through on the chat box, it's incredible. So much about sustainability, renewable stuff, really kind of health conscious people, community, climate conscious. I think these are amazing ideas. So keep them coming in. It's just so good to see them all.
Brilliant, brilliant. What's nice about this is it's not just us talking, sharing information. It's everyone engaging and everyone sharing with each other. What a fantastic.
And there's networking already happening on the chat as well, which is fantastic.
Okay, so let's talk about the value map. The value map's the square, and the first part you've got in it is the product or service that you've got, and that relates to the customer's jobs. So your product or service is trying to help the customer do something, move forward, make progress with their challenge or problem to get to where they want to be. So I've said that it's the thing that you sell to you. The thing in quotations is, it could be a product, it can be a service that helps your customers get a particular job done in their lives. And then you've got the pain relievers. The pain reliever is just a feature of your product or service that alleviates the customer's pain. And then you've got the gain creator, which is the feature of the product or service that enables the customer to get a gain. So I've got these two arrows which show that the features that enable the gains relate to the gains, and the features that are the pain relievers that relate to the pains relate to the pain. So that's a pain reliever. There's no fundamental difference between a gain creator and a pain reliever. It's just a feature of your product. But what makes it different is whether it relates to the gain, the thing the customer's trying to get, or the pain, the problem that they've got to start with. So this gives you a good overview of both the two sides, the customer profile and the value map, and each of the main sections. It's pretty simple, right? You've got to understand what problem has my customer got, where are they trying to go, what's the outcome they want, and what are they doing at the moment to get from one to the other. And then on the other side, what's my product or service? How does it help them in terms of what are the features that enable them to move away from the pain they've got and move towards the outcome they want, the gain that they want to get. So that's what we're trying to do here. I'm going to keep going. So I've got an example here, Tesco. So like, let's put this in context and give you a case study, because I think this is one that a lot of us are using right now, right? I'm just going to move my screen slightly because I can't see the bottom. Great. So since we're in quarantine right now, we only got one opportunity a week to go and get some shopping. So I wanted to use this as an example because I think this is one we'll all relate to right now. So as we can see, we're using Tesco as the company, and I'm using myself as a customer profile of myself to give you an example. So what I'm trying to do in terms of my jobs at the moment is buy food, and I'm trying to self-isolate. And the pains that I've got, the difficulties are trying to avoid germs. There's low availability of food supplies, and there are long queues outside the supermarket. What I want is to be able to get to the supermarket in less than a 10-minute walk. I want to be 2 meters apart from anyone. And the supermarket helps me because it's got Tesco has got the largest network of locations. So that means that it's likely to be within 10 minutes walk from my house. I want to keep 2 meters apart from anyone. So luckily there's staff managing the queue outside. So that's a feature of the supermarket that enables me to make sure that I'm 2 meters apart. In terms of a pain reliever, I want to avoid germs. Luckily you've got staff cleaning self-service checkouts regularly. And there's low availability of supplies, that's an issue. So what they've done is they've done limited to 3 of any item, which means that hopefully there's more availability and I can get the products that I want. Now there's this other thing, which I said, queuing outside. Normally you'd have the home delivery service, but because everyone's trying to use it right now, it's not always available. So that's an issue. So we've identified that as an issue on here. But hopefully you can see from this case study that I've showed you on the right-hand side, the customer profile, which I've used as myself. And then you've got Tesco and the supermarket and how it fits together to solve my problems. And in some cases, not solve them because I can't get the home delivery at the moment. So that's the first example, and hopefully starts to bring this to life a little bit. Next, you can do something pretty cool. And I'm jumping forward and I'll jump back again in a second. In the book, it talks about this idea of using an ad lib, it's called, or a value proposition statement. So we talked about a value proposition being a description of the benefits a customer can expect to receive from your product or service. What you can do is you can take those sticky notes now that we've used, because all those colored notes, those were like sticky notes. We would do this physically in real life. You'd have a print out the paper and you'd use your sticky notes and you put them on the paper. But of course I've done it digitally here. So what I can do now is take the sticky notes and put them into this statement. And this will help give you an idea of what the value proposition is for Tesco. This might not be exactly how they describe it, but I'm just showing you what the tool is and to give you an idea of how you could do it. So our supermarket helps people staying at home, because that's the customer segment, myself, who want to buy food and stay safe, because that's my job to be done. And I'm trying to avoid my pain, which is avoiding germs. And I want to increase or get to the outcome, which is stay close to home. I don't want to go too far. And unlike smaller competitors, it should be within a 10-minute walk because it's got the largest network of supermarkets in the country. So I'll just say that one more time. Our supermarket helps people staying at home who want to buy food and stay safe by avoiding germs and staying close to home. Unlike smaller competitors, it's less than 10 minutes to walk away from. It's likely to be less minutes to walk away from home. So you can see that I've just created that value proposition very simply. Now, what we've shown is the value proposition canvas is a great tool for looking backwards and analyzing businesses. But it's not just a tool for analysis. It's also a tool for looking forward and creating new business ideas, creating new products and services. And we're going to be showing that with what Spencer's doing. But before I do that, I want to show you an example of a company that's really thriving in this crisis right now and what they've done to be able to do that. So I just found this, it was a really interesting story that was in the newspaper that someone sent me a picture of, and it was the Red Herring Games company. So this lady, it's her company, and she was creating murder mystery dinner parties that were kind of face-to-face in real life. So she was creating packages that people could run their own murder mystery games for dinner parties. And she was only making she was doing very well, making £5,000 a month at this time last year. But during the crisis, she transferred it to online, and she's gone to making £30,000 in a month, selling these packages around how to organize a murder mystery dinner remotely using Zoom or Google Hangouts or whatever, video conferencing. And I want to share with you my interpretation of her value proposition canvas. So I've used the knife to demonstrate the murder mystery kind of product that she's got. And on the right-hand side, her customer profile is friends and family who are self-isolating. And so the pains that they've got is they need to keep distance. They need to take, well, it takes ages to organize a video call with your family. I did my first family one 2 weeks ago. I'd never got my mum and my dad together, and then my sisters all on the same call, a video call. It was a nightmare to organize. Technology can be an issue for the older people as well. They don't know how to set up Zoom or set up Google Hangouts. And spending, like a lot of people are spending like more than 2 hours a day watching Netflix and not really interacting with people. So the outcomes that people want is they want to socialize. They want to like have a night out kind of thing, even though we're kind of having to quarantine, right? They want to do something different. And in terms of the jobs that they're trying to do to get from one to the other, they want to speak to their family and their friends, and they want to find a way to feel connected to one another, right? These are the jobs that they've got. And then, so you've got the product, which is the virtual murder mystery parties, packages. And you've got what are the pain relievers? What are the features of that product that enables the customer to get over the pains? Well, you've got a virtual format. Well, that's handy because lets people keep distance. It's a DIY kit. You can do it yourself. So it helps organize the calls. It tells you everything you need to do to make it as seamless as possible. Gives you like a checklist. There's an email information about what software to use that you can send to your family members or friends so they know exactly how to set it up themselves. That's made it a lot easier for technologically speaking. And again, I can't see the bottom one. So it's a more social form of entertainment. Oh, I'm gonna have to catch up here. Which means that you're not spending 2 hours, hopefully more than 2 hours watching Netflix, or maybe more than that. So what's great in terms of the features that are helping get the gains that the customer wants is it's suitable for large audiences, for large groups, sorry. I think up to 20 people it can manage easily. It's about 3 hours long, so it's a great night out. It's suitable for large groups. So, well, I think I've just got a typo there. It's something different out of the ordinary, something you wouldn't normally do. You don't normally do murder mystery dinners, right? So that's a good feature that enables you to have something different. So that's a good example. I've given Tesco, and I've given the murder mysteries as examples of how you can use this tool to look at how those businesses are working. But when you're doing this moving forward, you don't know what your value propositions are. In fact, in the early stages of making your canvases using this tool, everything's just a guess. So all of these are assumptions. Everything you put into your what you think the customer is, who the customer is, what their pains are, what the gains they want, the outcomes they want, and what the jobs they're trying to get done to get from one to the other. Those are all just guesses. You have no idea yet until you speak to customers, right? And on the other side, well, you might have a rough idea of what you think the product is, but you don't know whether it actually meets the customer's needs, and you don't know what features are important or what features it should have at all. So it's all just a big guess, right? So what the next step needs to be is you need to map out all of your assumptions onto paper, yeah? And it's going to be, ideally you use lots of sticky notes. It's very messy, sticky notes everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. Get all your ideas out onto paper as much as you can. And then what you do is you want to prioritize your assumptions. So what we do is we put them in the orders and prioritize the most important assumptions. So like if we're, Spencer's going to share an example with the future builders, but say we're trying to start a new, creating our own kind of virtual murder mystery kit. You might be thinking, like you might say, well, people are feeling lonely, people are spending too much time on Netflix, people are having problems with technology and need some help. Those might be some assumptions. Your customers might actually not have those problems, but you need to speak to them and actually find out and observe them and see whether they do have those problems or not. Because as we said, what customers say and what customers do aren't always the same thing. So they might say they've got a problem, but then what you want to do is, first of all, you can ask them, but then you can actually observe what they do. So maybe you could set up a call and actually get them on and actually find out if they really have those problems. But what you do is you want to order all those sticky notes, find out what are the biggest guesses that you're making. What is the biggest assumption? And then test those first early on so that you're not leaving those like later on when you've invested more time and more money into maybe a product that isn't quite right, that needs to change. So we're prioritizing our assumptions. And then we talked about testing very, very quickly. So there's different ways that you can test your idea. Great book that I also recommend from Strategizer is, again, they're not paying me for this, is Testing Business Ideas. So this takes you through the next phase, which I'm not covering on this call. But this book goes into lots, it gives a whole catalogue of ways to test your idea in real life. A few examples that I want to give that Spencer can go into a little bit more detail on is, one, set up a landing page. Squarespace, I think, is a good one to use for that. Again, there are lots of different other providers, but you can set up a quick page. You can do it in a matter of hours and then get people to come to it. And you can even ask them for details, where they sign up for a newsletter or sign up for the maybe to be on the waiting list to get your product. And if you've got people like that signing up for your waiting list for your product, that's giving you quite a strong indication that maybe this product is a good idea before you've even built it. I think this works really well with online courses. Don't build your online course first, get people to sign up for it, see if there's interest, then build the course. That's what I recommend with that one. Customer interviews, really important. Make sure you're speaking to customers. Now, you can't do it in real life. And actually, one of Alex Osterwalder loves to say the quote from Steve Blank, which is, you need to get yourself outside the building. Yeah. If you're inside the building, it's no good. But of course, with coronavirus, we have to stay inside the building. So what we can do, fortunately, is we can set up video calls with people and speak to them and interview them that way. And I really recommend that you're doing that in this time. And you can do that. There's lots of different ways to reach out to people on Instagram, on LinkedIn, find out people's emails, just send them a message and ask them, you know, can you give me 5 minutes? I just want to talk through a business idea with you. I really recommend that you do that. They might not answer, but you can still ask them anyway. And if you ask enough people, you'll definitely get some responses in the end. And then the last one, we mentioned the credit card experiment. Now, you've got to be careful how you do this with GDPR and all that. But what you can do is you can ask people on your website to maybe go through to a page where it feels like they're going to pay for the product. And it might ask for their details, but you don't have to take them, but you can record on your website that they were ready to go to that next phase. And again, that gives you an idea of whether they were really going to buy that product or not, and helps you know, like, it helps you overcome that challenge of customers, what they say and what they do are not the same thing. This idea that your friends or your potential customers say, we love the product, yeah, we'll go for it. But then they don't really back it up when it goes to the sale time, they don't actually buy it. So having a credit card experiment where you test whether people are actually willing to give you the details before even taking them, that's a great way to test whether your idea has got legs or not. But what we're going to do now is, and I think we're doing okay for time, right? We're not doing too badly. We're just going to quickly, Spencer's going to talk through for 5 minutes on his value proposition canvas. So Spencer, do you want to go through this? Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think, just very quickly, to a couple of the points that have been made already, both by Nick, but also by Alex Osterwalder as well. Future Builders has been around for about a year so far, but we've probably had, I'd say, at least 6 different incarnations. So 6 completely different versions of what we are happened over the last year or so. We're going through another pivot right now just to try and figure out how we can offer a better service that's more valuable to individual people. So this is something that is not just talked about in theory, it's totally what happens in practice. And I know I'll talk through a few of those experiments that have helped us refine that over the time as well. So very quickly, go ahead. Yeah.
Just before you start, I just want to show people, this is what it looks like in real life. So we were mapping out Spencer's value proposition canvas, and this is what the kind of thing that you want to create.
Absolutely. As scrappy as you like. This isn't something that normally you wouldn't necessarily talk about this to 300 people, but so normally it's just on post-it notes and whatever else. So the big thing for me at the moment is this opportunity that's happened with coronavirus. I see it as an opportunity, and I think you know, whenever there's a crisis or there's difficulties, there are huge problems, but I think there's often opportunities that exist within those problems. And I see now that there's a big problem around lots of people are going to be made redundant over the next few months and years. That's, of course, it's going to happen, particularly in the hospitality and retail industries. So what I'm looking to do is pivot away from something which was all about helping businesses with their staffing and kind of improving training within their organizations, to directly helping people that are at risk of losing their jobs. They would have been at risk of losing their jobs anyway because of automation, because of globalization, because of changes in societal factors. But actually this coronavirus pandemic is accelerating that risk that they're going to have around their job security. So I really want to be helping people that are at risk of losing their jobs. And so here's some of the pains that those people are going through. There aren't any jobs for the current skills that a lot of those people have. So if you're working in Tesco, we've been using that as an example. There's automated checkouts right now. Okay, Tesco's is busy because it's providing a service right now. But there's so many areas of retail that people just won't have, or don't believe that they have the skills that are transferable to new and different businesses if they get made redundant. Often people don't know if they can start a business. So here's a little hint about what future builders will become. A lot of people don't have that confidence and that belief in themselves about being able to start a business. They don't know whether they're going to be successful with it. They don't know any entrepreneurs to see how it's done. They don't have that connection that a lot of people have. Now, very, very quick story is that I used to be a teacher. I was a teacher for 8 years, helping people, teaching kind of IT, media, film, games design, games development, lots of stuff around creativity and computers. And I was stuck in this rut of being a teacher. That's a great job, don't get me wrong, but I really had different ambitions and different passions. I was really lucky that I fell into contact with a couple of entrepreneurial people that gave me the confidence in my ability as an entrepreneur and took me on this new path. So I think, people don't have that network of entrepreneurs quite often, which is amazing that this program is already providing that as well. Some of the gains that people need to have is, of course, income. If you've lost your job, you're going to be suffering in terms of your own income, or perhaps you've got a job when you want a side project that can provide you with some extra income as well. So I think that's one of the gains that I'm looking to help people provide. And ideally, I like this idea of becoming financially free. And having this ability to have multiple channels of income coming in, maybe multiple businesses, and as well as having multiple jobs, perhaps, because I think that's a trend that we're seeing more and more. I think there's another gain, which is that you're able to build your own business and start your own business once you've got the confidence and the toolkit that you need in order to do that. I just need to move one of my screens here as well. The customer jobs that we're looking for here is, of course, going through the coronavirus that we are now, there's a lot of people that just don't have anything to do. They're out of job, maybe, but they've been furloughed. They're looking for kind of interesting things to do rather than sitting in front of Netflix for 2 hours. So I see that this is an opportunity to utilize some of that time for a positive good for yourself. And also people need to be able to find a business idea that captivates them, that motivates them, that feels like it fulfills a purpose in people's lives as well. So that's everything on the kind of customer side. So what we're looking to build as part of our product and service actually is really content and a platform that enables people to start a business. That's it at its most core and most basic. There's some kind of matching service that matches people with where they are right now to other people that might be able to provide those links to entrepreneurs, but also to experts as well as a matching service to great content and great courses. The gain relievers, the gain givers, if you like, that we're looking for here are, one of the really big things is that courses are fine, but this shouldn't be something which is just about learning. What I want to be able to do is create almost a blueprint, a map, a playbook of how to go from just an idea into generating revenue that anybody can follow. I really truly believe that everybody has the capability within them to become an entrepreneur. It's just that some people haven't experienced it or know what to do. So if we can give people that guide about how to do it, then it's much more likely you're going to find that business idea that you want. You can start to be a business owner yourself and then generate the extra income that we so desperately are going to be needing over the next few months and years. I think another element of this is about accountability. So it's fine saying that you're going to do something, but actually if you're telling somebody that you're going to do something, if you're accountable therefore to that thing that you've told them, if you're getting support about how to do this as well, then that's an incredibly valuable thing. Now, Nick and I have been talking to each other daily for about 3 or 4 years now, and I always feel that I'm accountable to Nick, and he's part of my network to help me grow as an individual. But a lot of people just don't have access to people like Nick. So I think that's something I want to be able to provide to people. I also believe in the power of learning through doing, or because it's future builders, learning through building. So I don't think that, a lot of people learn from reading theory, and a lot of people learn from reading books, etc. But actually, the most powerful thing is the way to learn is by doing something, by building something. So I want to create these modules and these snackable pieces of content about how to turn it from an idea through to finished product, actually doing it. And this is a good example of one of those tools that we'll be going through, is doing things like business model canvases. And then there's these idea of like mindset modules to help people become more entrepreneurial in their thinking, to have this experimental mindset as well. Because quite often we believe, and I'm going through this at the moment with a client that I'm working with as a separate side project, by the way. We've been doing this work for about a month. They believed that they had the answer and knew exactly what they wanted to do. We've interviewed now about 20 people, and only in the last couple of days, after a month of working on this project, are they starting to realize actually what they thought was the right thing to do was probably not the right thing to do, because people aren't desperate for it. So now we're having to revise a lot of these things. They haven't had that experimental mindset from the beginning. All of the guidance and the support that I've tried to give them has still meant that they're making a lot of these mistakes. I think case studies are an incredibly important thing. You know, I'm a big fan of this phrase, people like you do things like this. And actually, people like everybody on this call can do things like this if they're given the support and the guidance about how to do it, and that kind of roadmap and blueprint about how to exactly to do it. So the support is a hugely important part of it. Now, I've gone through that incredibly quickly. I'm just conscious of time, but I wanted to make sure that I got through it all. This is really important to me. It's become my passion project. I believe in everybody has the ability to do this, but people don't often think that they have the opportunities to do it. So I would love to connect with people. If you want to connect with me, of course, hit me up on LinkedIn or on Instagram. And I would say, I've just thought of doing this, but anyone that comes through and gets in conversation, I'll make sure that you've got access to the whole platform once it becomes live for at least a year for free. Don't have to pay a thing. So that's a commitment to everyone on this program. Hopefully that works for everyone. Nick, have I probably gone over? I always go
just
over
a little
time.
bit. I think we've got 1 minute left of our scheduled time. So I just want to fly through the last slide. So can I just do 1 more minute? Is that all right, Bruce, just to finish up?
We've got some questions.
Let me just finish this.
Okay.
You go to strategizer.com, check out the books. I really recommend you get them. Check out the masterclasses as well. Alex was keen to show those, and also check out the blog. It's absolutely fantastic. Please subscribe to the Spen and Nick show and connect with us. Nick Kimmer and Spencer Ayres. That's our session now. I don't know, sorry we've been a little bit over there, but Bruce, that's it for us.
Well, look, I'll tell you what, I'm going to set you to a challenge now. So, Spencer, are you able to bullet point an answer in under 10 seconds per question? The following.
Yes.
How do you recommend a new idea should be protected?
I personally I don't think ideas are worthless. Like, it's all about execution. Don't worry about people stealing your idea. Work harder, just get it happen, make it happen. You couldn't get people to if you go to a big company and try and get them to steal your idea, you couldn't even get them to. Don't worry about people robbing your ideas. Just work harder on it.
Plus one, absolutely agree.
So if you are going to lose sleep over patents, is there a quick fix, or is there someone you can run to make you sleep at night?
I've never really been involved in that part, to be honest.
Right.
I think it's better just to go for it and just it's all about execution is my opinion.
But I personally might run over to your local growth hub for a steer on that one, if that was your worry. Okay, so I think people would like to have links to the books, and certainly there's interest in your presentation. If through the KTN, Schwan might be able to answer that maybe at the end of the show. But very quickly, Nick, how do you feel about Kickstarter as a way to test whether there is interest in your idea and if people are actually willing to invest money?
Yeah, I think Kickstarter is a good start, a good way to do it. The problem with it, though, is that you kind of need a big audience to start with that. If you don't know anyone and you set up a Kickstarter page, no one's going to find it. It's not like there are people waiting, like hundreds of people, thousands of people waiting to pay for the product using Kickstarter. So you kind of need an audience already. So I think it's important that you start building that audience yourself. If you already have that audience, Kickstarter is amazing. If you haven't, work on building an audience to start creating content around your idea. I would be making videos about the problem that you're trying to solve and potentially your solution, and build an audience that way. And then I think that Kickstarter can be very, very good.
Okay, 10 seconds on. If you've got two customers, do you do two value propositions, i.e. one per customer?
Yes.
Yes, the answer is to that question.
One canvas for each one.